Good morning, YouTube family friends. This is Red with Rev It Up Car Fanatic Productions. Today, we're here with my nephew's 2016 Chevy Silverado. I don't know what model is this. If it's the LTZ, I know it's the High Country 4x4, and so it's the Silverado High Country. And he put some R122 in the system and it leaked out the very same day. So I'm looking for a large leak in the AC. So what I'm first going to do is go get my AC manifold gauge set, hook up the manifold gauge and check the static pressure. What static pressure is you just simply hook your gauges up and open up the lines from where the low side is and the high side is, and it puts pressure to the manifold gauge, and whatever ambient temperature is outside, that's what the reading should be. If there's zero pressure on both sides, then we got a large leak in this system, and there's no R122 in the system. And I'll show you what I do from there to do my checks. Well, just sitting over here checking, right here I can see that they used a can of Freon with some green dye in it. So I don't know if this is where the leak is coming from. The valve here, because here's your other line. So I don't know if it's coming from the low pressure side. This is the high pressure side down here. The low pressure is the one that that's where you introduce your Freon or your 122 in. So I'm going to assume that that's where the leak is, right there. Let me get something and stick down in there and see if there's any Freon in the system. So that's the first thing I do, is a visual inspection to see if I can see traces of antifreeze. You have oily lines, like oil will be coming from this line, the high pressure, the low pressure side. Maybe cracks in the line. Anywhere the AC lines run, you can see cracks where it will come out. The condenser, you'll see it. But let's just press down on here, see if we get anything come out. Barely anything. Barely nothing. Hardly anything in that system. So I'm going to suspect that this is where our leak is coming from. All right, let me hook up my gauges, and then we're going to verify this. Okay, so I got my low side hooked it up and my high side hooked it up. The low side has the smaller port, the high side has the biggest one, so you can't mix those up. So you just pull a couple up, slide it down over it, locks in place, twist it open. Same for the high side. Now this is what's called static pressure. It's at 0. This should be reading, it's probably about 74 degrees out maybe. It should be reading at least 74 on both sides, 68 to 70 on each side. We got 0 in the system. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this side off where we introduce air into the system, or introduce, this is where we actually put our can of Freon in. I'm going to take and go directly probably to this port right here, and I'm gonna put my other port on here and close this off. I'll be right back. So I got my air compressor and I got this part closed off where you would put the AC can at, and then I got a air fitting that goes over here. Some air is going to leak out, but all we need to get enough air in the system to see where the air leak is. Now, I'm gonna put the air in it. I know you like crazy, you're putting air in your air conditioning system. Yeah, I am. But we also have a vacuum pump. We can take the vacuum out. So I'm gonna introduce the air and we can show you where the leak is coming from. So we got it hooked up. We open up our valve. We let air in the system. Then we close the valve and we pull it back. And if you listen, it's coming from this port right here. Even with the cap on it, it's coming from the low side port. So that's where it's leaking the air at. And you can see a little bit of the dye on my fingers. But that's a large leak right there. So that's the problem, is that valve on there is leaking. So the rest of the system is fine. So since I did introduce air into the system, I'll use my vacuum pump and we'll vacuum the air out. We'll let it do it for about 35, 40 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. And then we'll check, once I fix that fitting, we'll check for leaks. We'll put a new fitting on there and we'll see if it holds 28.5 pounds of mercury or whatever it's supposed to hold. But that's how you diagnose it. That's a large leak. When it leaks with that cap even on there like that, that's bad. So there's our problem right there. So this is a service port repair kit, and it comes with the tool right here to remove these little gauges that look like the little valve stems on the tire, the valve stem cores. So we'll call this the service port core. You got one for the low side, one for the high side. So it's the low side that's leaking. So first thing we're going to do is take this out and see if that port is loose and see if it needs tightening. If that doesn't work, we'll go ahead and change the port out. And that was at $4.99 at AutoZone. So we tried tightening the old valve, the old service port stem, and it was already tight, so we just took it out. Now we added the new one, and you don't want to over tighten these because you can ruin the seal if you over tighten them. So now this is what the old one looks like. That's what the old one looks like right there. So that seal there is probably pretty much worn out for it to come leaking out like that. And I'll give you an idea of what the new one looks like. I mean, other than that seal being black, the seal on that one, I don't know, looks to be like a whitish color. But anyway, that's your service port valve stem. So we already put that one on the low side. Now I'm not going to film this on camera because I did before. What I'm going to do is shoot air through that. I'm going to put this on only on the low side and open it up and see if it holds air. Okay, so we got our vacuum pump going. You see the smoke coming out. That's how you know it's releasing the moisture. Make sure these are tight. Your AC gauges are tight. And I got both valves open, the high and the low side. And also over here, I still hear a leak. I got to figure out what side it's coming from. Could be the low side, the high side now. I just confirmed that I put my hand down there and the high side valve is leaking, so we're going to change that high side valve. Good morning, YouTube family, friends. Revving Up Car Fanatic Productions. We're here again with the 2615 Chevy Silverado High Country. Let me show you what happened. We found, and it was in a condenser. So we took the condenser out, and you can see all the dirt and stuff down there. This is the radiator, so I got to clean all this stuff out. I'll show you the new old condenser and the new condenser in a little while. So here's the new old condenser, YouTube family and friends. If you can see right here, it was leaking right here near the wells. It's got two little well spots where they tack welded it, and it leaked between the seams here. And I had a lot of air gushing out over on this side. It's a common failure on any 2014 to 2019, I believe, Chevy, Tahoe, Yukon, Denali's, High Country, Silverado, LT, LTZ. And if you look at the back, you can see all the green where the dye had ran down at. These are just side covers that go on them. And if you notice, one clip here, same as on the other side. And they clip right in here. You just take something and push this back with a screwdriver and pull out, and the bottom lifts out. And same on this side, you just push the tab back and it lifts right out. And down there is the other one. It just sits right down into that. I had to take the trans coolant off and the other one off on this side, which is right here. This goes into the top of the radiator. I mean the condenser. And there's these little metal clips that you pull off, which is, I'll show you that when I put them on the new one. So all you do is just inspect, make sure the new one is the same as the old one. So if I spin this around this way, we see the AC lines go right there. There's the other one, which is right there. And we hook those up. This bracket's going to transfer over to that. These, they just pull right off. And you'll see when you do it, if you ever do this job, they just pull right off. But I can't hold the camera with one hand and snap these off. So I'm going to transfer these over to the new one. And these are air deflectors that make the air, instead of passing through here, it passes where it needs to the condenser, to keep the condenser cooled down while the car is running and you're taking in air. Okay, YouTube family friends, let me get you up to speed. I went up to AutoZone and bought a pack of these AC grommets right here, and I matched the silver, the copper with the rubber around it. So I didn't want to use the old ones because I don't want them to leak. So I already put them on, and as you can see here, right there is the high pressure, and right here it's on the low pressure side. I put the new ones in. We got these little metal clips that goes behind here in here, and we put this black thing on it back here, the cover on it. So now we're getting ready to put the bracket on. If I can remember what I did with it. Oh, here it is. Put this S bracket back on down here, and where it connects to the radiator right down in here, to hold those two lines together. Well, since I got all the AC lines tightened up, I can go ahead and start putting a vacuum and drawing moisture out of the system and see if we have any leaks. And if there's no leaks, then you know, we can just let the vacuum continue to pull while we go ahead and connect the radiator fan shroud, the radiator fans, and all the connections that hook to it. So that's what we're going to do. Let's get our vacuum pump set up. Okay, we got the vacuum pump. It's been hooked up for a while. You can see the discharge line and the charge lines hooked up to the vacuum, and it's hooked up to the middle. And we got both gauges open, and we're pulling zero. We're pulling about 28, 29.5 on the gauges, and we're going to let it run for a little while, and then we're going to see if it has if it doesn't leak down. If it doesn't leak down, then we'll let it run for another 45 minutes and completely vacuum out the system, get all the moisture out the system, because we had this system open by replacing the condenser. And as you can see, I had the fan shroud connected back in, all the hoses up, hooked up to the right place, and all the tabs connected to everything. And this piece was hooked up and in. We got that in there, so we're all set with that. Everything is in place and everything looks to be in order. So our new condenser is in. Everything is looking well so far, so we'll chat back with you in a little while. Okay, we turned the vacuum off. We got our ports closed and the pressure is still up in there, so our vacuum is holding at 28.9, so that's good. And this one's over here on the high side is at 0, so that's good. So what you want to do, you want to close these ports off first. Close them off real tight, and then come over here and shut your machine off. And once you shut your machine off, the vacuum is supposed to hold, and it's been off about 3 minutes, so that's looking good. So we're gonna let that sit for a while because we know we did disconnect stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and put our breather back over the top of the throttle body and put the breather housing back in and put the intake tube back on and get all the top of this taken care of, and get the mass airflow sensor connected back in there, and we'll be ready to charge this puppy up. The system is cycling. We got about 200 pounds on the high side, about 45 on the low side, and you see the compressor down there running. So we're good. We can close off the ports. Just want you to know, YouTube family and friends, I have my safety goggles on and working with gloves. We're working with refrigerant because it's enough to give you frostbite and it doesn't tickle. So together we put the service port cap on the low side and put the service cap back on the high side. You can see everything is back together. Everything is running good. AC is blowing out cold, and we have about 1.5 ounces in this can. This can is completely empty. So we got it filled up to about 21.19 ounces, which is 0.0600 kilograms, which is on here. And it's blowing out super cold. So it's a job all complete, well done. Rev It Up Car Fanatic Productions. And that's how you detect where a leak without injecting dye into the system. You see, I used my air compressor and charged up the system. Found the service port low side leaking, service port high side leaking, changed the valve, changed the new port over there. Then I found in the grill over here that the Freon was leaking over on this side. So over on this side here and that side here, we have no leaks whatsoever. The system is nice and ice cold. Our fans run. So yeah, we're done. Couldn't show you everything when I took everything apart, putting it back together, because you know I'm the only one operating the camera, and sometimes you can't do nothing but with one hand, so you need both hands. So you just got to explain it best you can. But it's not that hard, it's not that intimidating, and we wish you luck. God bless. Like and subscribe. So the problem I have here is we got the new stud that screws into here, but when you pull these off, I don't have the new seals to go in here. One big one is a washer with a seal on the back side and on the front side, and I could show you the seals. They're right here. This is the big one. I hate to reuse these things, you know, to do all this work when we have a leak. So this is the flat side, which goes against the condenser side like that, and the rubber seal side is on the other side. And just like on the small one here, you can see that this side presses back this way, and the seal is inside there. But I don't want to reuse these to put them in there because I don't want to leak. So I just got off the phone with AutoZone, and they're going to call me back to see if they got open another box and see if they have seals in there, because they're definitely going to have to have a new washer seal to it. When you slide the condenser in, you want to make sure that that tab right there goes into the hole, and the tab right down there locks into the hole, locks into the correct place. It's that silver one right there on the end. You want to make sure that's locked in that tab. And then, as you can see, right there, locked in on that tab. So I can point my finger to it. It might be hard for you to see, but right here it locks into that tab, and then all the way down the bottom is locked into the tab down there. Let's see if I can get a close-up of the tab down there. It's harder to see it on this side, but there it is. And on this side, it's right down there. Unfortunately, I can't videotape everything, but okay, you can see see if I can get a good shot of these valves, the high and the low side right there. I got the new seals inside there, tighten that down. Okay, I got the radiator in. I put this top piece back on, it's bolt under here, and then this one on top. Same thing on this side, right here, a bolt under here, and a bolt under there. They're all 10mm bolts. So now I'm going to put the radiator fan back in, and then connect the wires and all the plugs that go into that, and then we're going to start to get the system evacuated. Okay, it's been sitting probably 20 minutes. We're still at 28.5 inches of mercury, and we're 0 on the high side. So I always run that test within 10 minutes of doing a vacuum on the system, because it'll get enough vacuum drawing moisture out, pressure on the system, to let you know that you don't have a leak. So now I can go ahead and put the rest on for about another 40 minutes. I'll let it go ahead and pull a vacuum on it. So what we do, we go ahead and turn on the machine to start the suction, and then you'll hear it change as I open it. You hear it makes the noise. There you go. That lets you know that it's drawing vacuum out. So we're going to let that run about another 40 minutes, and then we're going to charge this system up.